In this video, I'm going to discuss how much do annuities pay out, and I want to go over the different types of annuities, how to figure out a specific income gap, and then how you can use specific annuities to close up that gap through certain cash flow related strategies. So case in point, some annuities are best for lifetime income. That's usually why individuals leverage annuities. But there's different types for the lifetime income aspect. Then you also have other annuities for individuals that are just trying to get safe accumulation on their money. So maybe they're not trying to take out the dollars for some sort of income or withdrawal, but they just understand the safety behind the insurance companies that are offering these sorts of products, and they want to have a reasonable rate of return or a higher fixed or fixed index rate of return than where they could find it elsewhere. So when we're discussing annuities and an individual is trying to utilize it to accomplish what their cash flow gap is, how does that work? Why would somebody use an annuity versus, using an investment as an example? So if we go through a very basic situation, let's say that we have an individual is age 60, they're looking to retire at age 65. This is their point A, this is their point B. This individual has $500,000 saved up in an IRA and then some other 401k money, savings, brokerage accounts, all of that. From point A to point B, what's going on? Well, they're working. So the income that they're generating from their occupation is typically greater than or equal to their expenses. So anytime that it's greater than their expenses, then they might be placing more dollars into savings. Pretty self-explanatory. When they hit this age 65 marker, this is where they now have to rely on their guaranteed income sources to produce income that's going to be greater than or equal to their expenses, because the cash flow from their occupation, if they truly want to retire, just stop working altogether, their occupational income is going to stop, and therefore they have to utilize whatever's most available to them. So once they get up to that point B, that age 65 marker, they have to go to the drawing board and they have to say, okay, well, what are my expenses? What are my expenses projected to be at this point B marker? And this is where you could utilize budgeting analysis and just pretty much do a cheat sheet of what are your current expenses right now as you're working versus where your expenses are going to be at retirement. So they might be larger, it might be smaller. It might be smaller because maybe you had a mortgage that got paid off or different debts that got paid off, or you're downsizing, you're selling a home, and then you want to move over to a condo and just make things a little bit more simple for you. Reasons why it may be increasing is typically when individuals hit their retirement age, they said, I've worked my entire life to get to this point. I want to make sure that I'm at least going to be traveling for the next 5 to 10 years. So I want to take an extra vacation. I want to, visit grandkids, whatever that case is, or I want to basically pursue a hobby, maybe golf every day, fish every day, whatever that is. So those are going to have some, extra costs related there. So each individual situation is going to be different at this point B. You could see a significant drop off in expenses at point B, from point A to point B, or you can see a significant increase in expenses. It really just depends. That expense standpoint is going to be the most important aspect when you're trying to create a type of retirement plan and see if maybe an annuity may be leveraged correctly. And what I mean by that is after going through all that analysis and figuring out what your monthly expenses are, you're going to come up to a number. So let's say in this example, the number is $80,000. And that's going to be starting at this individual's age 65. We understand that they had a IRA sitting at $500,000. So we know that the expenses are $80,000. What are their income streams? And this is where they could utilize Social Security income, pension income, and other, meaning their savings. So their other could be from brokerage accounts, savings, checking accounts, Roth IRA accounts, traditional IRA accounts, 401k accounts, whatever that is, to make sure that they're closing up that gap if there is a gap there. So for this example, let's just say that Social Security income is coming to this individual for $30,000 per year. They have pension income coming to them for $40,000 per year at their projected age 65. And, they don't have any other income sources. So in this aspect, or in this example, $70,000 is going to be their lifetime income cash flow, but what they need to get to is $80,000. So that tells us that there's a gap of $10,000. If an individual wants to close up that gap, they could utilize an annuity in an insurance company, that those are the only ones that could offer annuities, to produce that extra lifetime income. Now, when doing so, the trick is to make sure that you're using the smallest amount of dollars and only as much as necessary off of whatever the top cash flow rate is going to be. So there may be 1,100 different options that are coming back from all different insurance carriers and all different types of products. Out of those, you might have 90 to 95% of them that are garbage, that are lower cash flow related strategies versus other ones in the top 1, 2, 3 that could be significantly higher. What do I mean by that? Well, we understand that this individual had 500,000 that was sitting in an IRA. The goal that we were trying to get to was $10,000 of cash flow. You may have one company, one carrier that tells us, okay, I have this 500,000. If you go and you give us 200,000 and you want to trigger income in exactly 5 years. So this person's age 60, they go take IRA, they transfer 200,000 into this IRA with this random insurance company, and the insurance company tells them, okay, we're going to generate you the $10,000 of income if you give us $200,000. We're going to give you $10,000 for the rest of your life. So this individual looks at that and says, okay, well, I guess that sounds all right. I'm just going to go and basically transfer the 200,000, wait 5 years, get $10,000 of income. Well, that's a problem. Why is that a problem? Because if you're not going to the drawing board and you're not dissecting every single offer possible, how do you know whether this is the best offer for you? So case in point, maybe the top option, if somebody had a $500,000 bucket, age 60 years old, looking to trigger income at age 65, if you had the top option that maybe only required $80,000 to place it in the top company, therefore for the 5-year deferral and still produce that same $10,000 of cash flow, you just ended up saving yourself $120,000 by going into the superior product that produced that same lifetime income feature as opposed to an inferior product, which made you fork over an additional $120,000. So this is the common mistake that individuals make time and time again, is not understanding what that math is going with a captive agent that says, okay, we're with company XYZ, and regardless of whatever you're going to tell us, we're just going to constantly shove company XYZ down your throat. That's not the way on how you leverage annuities effectively, efficiently, especially when we're utilizing the income gap play. So the different types of annuities, the first step is to make sure that you're going to the drawing board, or at least you're leveraging an advisory group that understands all the different companies or have access to all the different companies, as opposed to going to a captive agency that only gives you one option. If you have questions regarding your specific situation, simply call 1-800-566-1002 at any time throughout this video. Make sure to reference this video, and then we'll make sure that you're set up with a correct advisor to handle your specific situation and run through those different results with you. So that's the first step, is making sure that you're not just using one carrier, that you're going to the drawing board and you're seeing what's the best available for you. The second option is to see, okay, well, what sort of product lines will produce this lifetime income cash flow? And you could either go with old-fashioned annuities, which says give X amount of dollars to an insurance company, and that insurance company is going to produce you a lifetime income stream. When you pass away, there's no more money left to beneficiaries. That's known as annuitization. So those are your deferred income annuities, your immediate annuities, your QLACs, different things that will give you, you're placing dollars into that insurance company. They're paying you the income stream, which is similar to like a pension aspect. With a pension plan, if let's say you took the single life only option on a pension plan and you were living, you passed away, all that money is now going back. Your beneficiary is not receiving a dollar of those monies remaining. So that's one aspect, how to do it with old-fashioned annuities. The newer annuities are ones with income riders. So you'll have a slew of different things. You'll have fixed annuities, variable annuities, and fixed index annuities. And you have these things called income riders, which allow you to have control of your account, use the income rider for lifetime income. So it's still giving you that same sort of effect as you would with those old-fashioned annuities, except for whenever you pass away, if there's still money remaining in the account balance, that could be left over to beneficiaries. And what we've seen is when you're trying to go out for a longer duration of time, let's say 1 year plus, and you need to defer before you're actually going to trigger income, typically the most effective route are fixed index annuities with income riders, known as hybrid annuities. Fixed annuities with income riders, you have some of them that are okay. Variable annuities with income riders, I think, are complete dog shit. And I equate the concept with other videos I have out there with a duck boat. If you know what a duck boat is, it's basically a boat that could drive on land, and then it could also go in the water. It doesn't make a very good car, and it doesn't make a very good boat. Just like a variable annuity, it doesn't make a very good income-producing vehicle, and it doesn't make a very good investment because you have a whole slew of different fees that hoard down on that account balance and can liquidate those account balances very quickly. So those are really the different areas that you could utilize from an annuity standpoint to close up that gap. The trick with it is to make sure, first step is to figure out what your expenses are. Second step, to see what your income sources are. If there's a gap there, make sure that you're using the smallest amount of dollars and only as much as necessary towards those income related annuities, so that you could leave as much money on the sidelines or towards growth, emergency needs, towards really more of those fund monies that you don't have to leverage towards that insurance related product. So that's the gap. Now, when I say extra, what exactly does that mean, and how do some of those accounts work from an annuity standpoint? This portion is meant more for the individual that wants to just have some sort of safe accumulation on their monies. So maybe they have their money set up with different investments, and they understand that investments could ebb and flow if they're leveraging stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, whatever that is, but they want to take a sliver of that portfolio, preserve and protect it, and then try to get a reasonable return on those monies. So this is where it tilts more towards, on the extra side, it tilts more towards the conversation of a fixed related accounts, fixed index related accounts, and then you also have variable related accounts. But once again, you have to be very careful with variable related accounts. So when we discuss the first type of annuity, which is just the pure fixed annuity, what does that mean? Well, it's fixed, meaning that you're going to get a fixed rate of return every year for the duration of time that you set your money up in. So if, let's say, you're in a 3-year fixed annuity that's paying you 5%, versus a 5-year fixed annuity that's paying you 5%, this one's going to give you a fixed rate of return for the next 3 years. After 3 years, you could either stay with that company and be subject to whatever that new rate change is, or you could take the money at that point and place it into whatever the next best thing is. Same thing, if you have a 5-year account, you're going to be receiving that interest credit of 5% compound interest every year for those 5 years. At the end of the first year, regardless of whatever the market does, you're going to get a fixed rate of return. If it went up, you're getting 5%. If the market went down, you're getting 5%. Everything's fixed. Pretty self-explanatory. So usually individuals that like to leverage bank CDs are more of those shorter term durations of saying, I just want to have my money in here, get some sort of reasonable rate of return based on what the interest rate environment is. Does it make more sense to go into a bank CD versus more sense to go into a MYGA, a multi-year guaranteed annuity with an insurance company? Usually, whenever you're dealing with more of, on the lower end, about 3 years and less, that's where maybe the bank CD route might be more favorable, versus about years 3 to 5, 3 to 7, that's where you'd be utilizing the annuity route, because it'll give you a higher rate of return, give you that compound interest effect, which could help out with tax allocation strategies, but it's still producing that same sort of premise of, it doesn't matter what the market's doing, it's not related to the market, it's just giving you that fixed rate of return based on whatever the insurance company offering it. Now, a fixed indexed annuity is slightly different. What this is meant for is an individual that feels like they could get a higher rate of return in the market, but they do not want to get hindered with the same fees that you would by going into investments, and also have that downside risk that you would have with investments. So probably the easiest way to explain it would comparing the difference between a fixed annuity versus a fixed indexed annuity. And let's just say, for an example, we have $100,000 that an individual wants to place in a fixed annuity. It's giving them a 5% rate of return for the next 5 years. Versus a fixed indexed annuity, let's just say that they have a 15% cap on this specific product based on some sort of index that it's related to. So with this, let's just say that their index is set up with an S&P 500. Is the index benchmark that we're going to utilize. With the fixed account, $100,000, we know after the first year that account balance is going to be $105,000. The next year it's going to be higher than that. Next year it's going to be higher than that. So after we compound that out for 5 years, we know that if they put $100,000 in there, after 5 years, they'll be left with $127,628. So they have $27,628 of interest, of compound interest gain on this. Obviously, like I mentioned before, the difference between compound interest for simple interest In this case, instead of it being 5% simple interest, which is only $5,000 credit every year, because they left that money in the account, they didn't take any withdrawals, they would allow that 5% to be compounding on whatever the account balance is, so they gained an extra $2,628 from what a simple interest calculator would have compounded. So we know that this is what the individual would receive per 100,000 that they're placing in there in this scenario. Now with a fixed index annuity, let's say that the market, the S&P 500, gained 20% the first year, then it lost 15% the second year, then it lost 5% the third year, then it gained 14% the fourth year, then let's say it gained 7% the fifth year. What exactly does this look like if we have a 15% cap? Well, if you had $100,000 after the first year, because your cap is 15%, your interest credit, the market or the S&P gained 20%, you would have $115,000 would be your ending account balance. The next year, because the market went down 15%, you gain 0. The next year, because it went down 5%, you gain 0. So you have the floor of 0%, and you might have some sort of cap, or you might have some sort of uncapped indexing strategy based on whatever sort of fixed index annuity that you got set up with. So for this example, we use a 15% cap. So anytime it goes above 15%, you're getting the 15% credit. Anytime that it is less than 0, you're getting a 0% credit. So after the first year, you gain 15%, second year 0, third year 0, fourth year you gained, because it was plus 14%, 14 is underneath the cap of 15, you get a 14% gain in this, and then the next year you'd have another 7% gain in there. So your total account balance after all 5 years with the fixed index annuity would be $140,277, which is obviously higher than what you would have had with the fixed account. The fixed account is more of, hey, I just want to make sure I don't really trust the markets. I don't want to have this what if scenario on the back end. I just want to make sure that I have a bird in the hand. I'm not caring about two in the bush. So that's where an individual wants the safety, but they want to have it fixed. And they have that mindset of, as long as I know I'm getting a fixed rate of return, I'm winning, every single year. Versus the other individual that says, I like the concept of the upward market gains, but I want to make sure that if the market crashes, I have a 0% rate of return. I don't have any fees, no downward market risk associated to this sort of account. So these are really the differences between the fixed versus the fixed indexed related annuities. So what are some common mistakes, which I briefly touched up on off of the gap, like when someone's trying to figure out what their lifetime income cash flow should be, if they're trying to utilize an insurance product, an annuity, to close up that gap and say, okay, if I'm transferring X amount of dollars into this insurance company and I wait X amount of years, how much income am I going to be receiving? So a common mistake that's made is an individual, one which I mentioned, going to a captive agency, even though there's over 1,100 different, or typically over 1,100 different offerings for an individual situation, state, if they're above the age of 55, below the age of 74, different aspects that they could really leverage for their benefit. So the big thing is making sure you're not getting pigeonholed into one company, even though you have all these offerings out there, and you're going to have certain sweet spots. So like what I mean by that is company ABC, as an example, could be very good for individuals that are age 60, waiting 5 years to trigger lifetime income. Versus company XYZ could be the best for an individual that's age 60, waiting 2 years to trigger lifetime income. It's all about figuring out what the goal is, what that retirement vision is, what that age is that that individual wants to retire, and then moving backward into whatever the math is. Case in point, like that example I mentioned in the beginning, if somebody has $500,000 of savings of different assets, and there is an income gap of $10,000, and we understand by using the smallest amount of dollars, only as much as necessary of this $500,000 to accomplish their income gap, to close up that income gap, and it's with the best carrier, it's going to be $80,000 you have to place in there to therefore generate that extra $10,000 of cash flow. That's obviously a better scenario than saying, oh, let me just go blindly into this, go with an okay company that requires me to place $200,000 with them to get that same $10,000 cash flow. So you really want to use your age, you really want to use all the different attributes to your benefit so that it could obviously, you could save thousands of more dollars in your pocket as opposed to placing those dollars into an inferior insurance company, an inferior product. And that's what we help out on a national basis to really help understand an individual situation, create a plan for them, and then say, okay, these are the different options available. Would it make sense based on your risk tolerance? Would it make sense to utilize an annuity so that you're at least getting that insurance that you're not going to outlive X amount of dollars, and it's going to close your gap, and it's going to correlate to your pension income streams, your Social Security income streams, so that it's producing that necessary baseline to cover your expenses, to be greater than or equal to your expenses. So therefore, you have the most amount of dollars left over for your emergency needs, for your growth needs, your ancillary needs, and all of that. Now, what are some of the common mistakes made on the extra accounts, the fixed accounts, the fixed index accounts? And simply put, it's just going with, once again, an inferior product line. And then also seeing if it doesn't make sense. If your risk tolerance, if you're risk tolerant and you really love the ebbs and flows in the market, and you're more of a gunslinger, and you like that, that really the high risk, high return, and you like getting a 30%, 20% rates of return on there, it might make more sense to place or leave your portion of dollars, your ancillary dollars, into those larger portfolios, because you have uncapped gains, meaning with investments, because you have uncapped gains, but you also have uncapped losses. By creating the baseline off of closing up that gap, it allows you to be a little bit more risky with those extra dollars. For those individuals that do like the concept of placing a portion of dollars into the fixed index, the common mistake is just going to that inferior rate of return. So like, as an example, if you're looking at what's the best 5-year rates, and you see one company is giving you a 3% rate of return for 5 years versus another company that's giving you 5.25% for 5 years, why would you go with the 3% rate of return? It's an inferior product. You're losing out on 2.25% per year for those 5 years because the captive agent was nice, or whatever your reasoning is for that. It doesn't make mathematical sense. You always want to look at the math. You always want to obviously look at the safety behind it, because that's why you're using this, but making sure that you're giving yourself the best opportunity for growth with that fixed rate of return. Same thing with the fixed index related accounts. So like an inferior fixed index related account may be having an S&P 500 as the index, and will have a 3% cap on the S&P 500. So in theory, the fixed index annuity is going to grow whenever the S&P 500 increases at its 1 year point to point, or it's going to gain 0 whenever the index goes down. Grow when it goes up, gain 0 when it goes down. So you have one company, ABC, that has a 3% cap, meaning if, let's say, the S&P 500 gains 20% 1 year, then it loses 10%, then it gains 5% the next year, then it loses 15%, then it gains 12% that last year. If you had a 3% cap, you're only gaining 3%, then you're gaining 0, then you're gaining 3%, then you're gaining 0, then you're gaining 3%. You would have wasted 5 years and only received 9% rate of return off of those 5 years, which you would have been better off just going to a fixed account at that point. A better company may be one with an S&P 500 that has a cap of 12%. Because in this same scenario, when the market gained 20%, this one gained 12. When the market lost 10, you gain 0. When the market gained 5, you gain 5. When the market lost 15, you gain 0. When the market gained 12, you gain 12. So in this scenario, you would have had a plus 29% rate of return after all 5 years, because you had a higher cap rate limit than, with company XYZ as opposed to company ABC. It's not magic, it's just math. Make sure that you're not falling victim to the common, excuse my language, bullshit marketing traps of smoke and mirrors. Oh, this shiny object is going to gain when the market goes up, not lose when it goes down. It's rainbows and butterflies. At the end of the day, what are they trying to, what is kind of the catch? What is the catch with everything? And the best way that I try to recommend these sorts of products is I try to shoot the most amount of holes into every scenario that comes back. And if it's still left standing, that's where I say, okay, you know what? I think this might be a favorable output for you. I think that you should maybe leverage a portion of dollars towards this area or towards this area because of X, Y, Z. The cons, these are all the cons. This is what I don't like about it, but this is what I like about it. And I think that the pros really outweigh the cons specific to your scenario. And that's really the hands-off approach that we like to take. We like to make sure to delve into all the details, making sure that we're not trusting a specific company. We're always looking at those finer details to say, okay, with confidence, this is what you can expect. This is what you can receive by going with this company or this sort of strategy versus this strategy. And majority of this video, I was talking about product, or in particular annuities, and how they may work regarding their payouts, regarding how to close up a gap, some sort of extra monies if you have it left over. But at the end of the day, that's not going to be helpful if you don't have some sort of plan, if you don't have some sort of point that you're trying to get to, and then making sure to back up into the math. So what I mean by that is, based on the different accounts that an individual could place their money into, You have safety accounts, you have income-related accounts, and you have growth-related accounts. Some of the more safer accounts is meant for your liquid, your emergency-related needs. So these are going to be checking, savings, a lot of bank-related products, money market accounts, different things that you could touch at the drop of a hat in case you need to. It's liquid, it's safe. You know that by placing your monies in there, you could take it any time, and you know that those entities that are holding the monies are safe and have some sort of legal reserve structure backing. The other portion or other dollars that you could place into different types of accounts are income-related accounts, which these are your different stock dividends, if you something that's going to generate income, bonds, REITs, annuities, like the cash flow-related annuities, lifetime income annuities I was mentioning regarding the gap. Those are the different sorts of income-related accounts that an individual could use. And then you have the growth-related accounts, which really there's endless possibilities. You could use anything from growth-related stocks or stocks, mutual funds, ETFs. These could be the cryptocurrencies. These could be some of your safer accounts like the fixed annuities, fixed index annuities, market-linked CDs, bank CDs, different things that you could say, okay, I want to have a portion of these dollars meant for growth. So by categorizing your different accounts into safety, income, or growth-related buckets, how does these sorts of products in these accounts, how do they correlate to a specific plan? And that's why I have the verbiage diet plan up on the screen. What we did is we extracted the 4 most important areas of any sort of financial plan, any sort of retirement plan, and we trademarked that process to say what are different steps to make sure that an individual could constantly check so that they're not falling victim to just, I'm going to throw my money in this portfolio and I hope that everything's going to work out. That's hopium. That's a big question mark. That's not an actual plan. If you mess that up and you're in your retirement years, what's the alternative? The alternative is going back to work in your 70s, your 80s, significantly reducing what your lifestyle is, significantly reducing or eliminating what your dream was to live that fulfilled retirement. So that's why it's important to have a plan, to have some sort of process in place. The D in diet stands for distribution planning, making sure that you're uncovering what your current cash flow situation is. Do you want to leverage pension maximization strategies? Do you want to leverage Social Security optimization strategies? How can you make sure that you're squeezing the most amount of juice from those accounts for a cash flow need so that could try to get closer, as close as possible, or greater than or equal to what your expenses are throughout retirement? If there's gaps there, how can you make sure that you're efficiently closing those gaps? Using the smallest amount of dollars and only as much as necessary, so therefore you can move on to that step 2. Step 2 is investment growth-related strategies. And unfortunately, that step 2 is where individuals just create their retirement plan. They say, okay, regardless of really whatever my situation is, I'm just going to try to grow my accounts, just throw it into a bunch of investments and hope that everything works out. And that's where you could be very calculated with that move. So it's only after you create your distribution. If you don't have income, you don't have a retirement. So by making sure your income is intact and you're having that baseline, that allows you to relax when you're going into that investment growth related stage and placing the dollars in there. So that goes by what your risk tolerance is, what your current situation is, what are some of the options available to you, and then most importantly, fees. If there's ways that you could strip down the different costs, that could allow your account to grow with the power of compound interest that much greater because there's less drag on your account. The E in diet plan, those are for the individuals that want to leave some sort of legacy or estate planning needs and make sure that their beneficiaries are covered in case of an incapacitation or death. So we show optimization strategies from that aspect. And then the T encompasses really everything, is tax planning. As an example, for your distribution planning side, there may be ways to take out certain accounts, create certain income strategies that you're taking it from tax-free portions that do not affect what your Social Security taxation is versus individuals that go into that distribution planning strategy blindly. And maybe if they're taking it from IRA accounts or different qualified accounts, that specific threshold that by pulling it from those types of accounts are going to increase the amount of taxation on Social Security, which results in less income in your pocket, less income at the end of the day because you didn't take the proper strategies, you didn't take those proper steps to make sure that you're in the best mathematical route. So the main takeaway is really to look at every account, every sort of product, like individual tools in a tool belt. If you're trying to hammer in a nail, can you use the back of a screwdriver to do it? Yes, you can. But it's going to be more efficient to use a hammer. That's exactly how you should go throughout your retirement, or plan for your retirement, making sure that you're always using the most efficient tool that's going to optimize that specific area. Think of it as individual pieces of a puzzle. By putting the correct pieces in there, your overall puzzle could look beautiful. It could be a magnificent situation. So if you did find value in this video, if you did have any questions, you want to speak to an advisor, simply give our 1-800 number a call. It's 1-800-566-1002. Make sure to reference this video, and we'll set up the correct advisor for your calendar for a time that works most convenient for you, and send you over whatever information that would be most helpful to educate you and really walk you through the different processes that we have in place. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you can have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.